Hi. Thank you for joining me, Nat. Today
Hi.
we're going to be doing the Robin Hobb tag, which was created by Miss Richards Reads. And yeah, we're just going to be going through the tag. It's Robin Hobb themed, but it's not about Robin Hobb's books. So we're going to be talking about a bunch of different stuff.
Probably will be talking about Robin Hobb's books somewhere in there, though.
Yeah, I'm going to limit myself to like only one Robin Hobb answer.
I mean, but we
I
know, yeah.
Yeah, but we know the truth. um, what do you have to drink with you?
Oh, that's right. We're doing a little alcohol stream. I have I just made this like 20 minutes ago and I already forget what's in it.
Is it not
Bourbon.
another winter margarita?
It is not another winter margarita. It is bourbon, Aperol, and I don't remember what the last thing is, but it's good.
The
Uh,
mystery chemical X. I just have a mango seltzer. Do you want to just start?
we can start. I mean, maybe we should note that like we're going to be giving a book answer to every question, but we might also throw in the occasional blah, 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 occasional honorable mention
Uh-huh.
from some other form of media. Just like I have a few that I'm like this fits, even though it's not a book. But we will also do books.
All right. The first question is based off of the skill, and
Mm.
it is, what is your favorite magical ability?
Oh, do you want to go first? Do you want me
Okay,
to go
I'll go
first? You
first.
can go first.
I can go first.
Yeah, you go
Mine
first.
is from The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater, and
Oh,
I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but like the series has been out for a while now, so I
like
won't
a
say.
minute ahead if you don't want to know.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be a little vague about it, but basically, a character in The Raven Cycle has the ability to take stuff out of their dreams, and there's a couple strings attached. Like they can't just like take stuff out willy nilly, but I really love the way that Steve Otter portrays that, and the whole second book is about this. It's like, it's titled The Dream Thieves, and yeah, I think that's my favorite magical ability. What about you?
Oh, I this is hard. So I have a couple written down. The one that I think immediately comes to mind, and from a series that I just finished like a week ago, is
Mhm.
Orogeny from. I guess this was more than a week ago,
Ooh.
but Orogeny from the Broken Earth trilogy. I think
Mhm.
the uh, without I don't know, is there any Orogeny related spoilers? I'm gonna
No.
try to be vague, but just the way that Jemison incorporates geology
Mhm.
into this magic, and the way that it ties into the rest of the world that she's built is really cool. Honestly, I think if anything it's underutilized. I think it's a really cool magical ability that I would have liked to see more done with in that series.
There's this sense that like there's so much that you could do with this ability, but because the origins are like so persecuted, they're like forced to hide it.
Yeah.
Imagine if they could just live freely, what they could do. Yeah, it's a very good allegory for real world racism, but I think it
Oh
is
yes,
just such a
phenomenal.
cool ability. And I also love the way that Jemison uses earthly terms to describe things like emotions.
Yeah.
She like connects emotions to like magma and like anger, and it's just very sort of visceral the way that she uses language in that trilogy. I also finished it. We've kind of buddy read it, not
Yeah.
really,
Well,
but
at least the last two books we did.
yeah,
I
love
do have an
that.
honorable mention too.
Ooh,
Uh,
what's your honorable
so my
mention?
honorable mention is for the anime slash manga Hunter x Hunter. There is a
Hmm.
character with an ability called hide and seek, which I'm going to forget the exact mechanics, but
Hmm.
he can basically open a door in a wall, just like create a door in a wall and walk into this like series of rooms that he just has suspended in like extra dimensional space,
Ooh, that's
and
so
he can go
cool.
in and out, and there's this great sequence where he's just using them to like flit all over this castle and hide from people, and he's doing this for days, and he has all of his supplies stored in his hidden rooms, and so he'll just like be in the middle of a fight and then dip out and grab a snack, um and then
I love
appear from
that.
like a different wall and just get back in. It's really good. It's a really good time. So yeah.
I would love
Great
that.
ability that I have fantasized about having, because then I wouldn't have to pay the absurd housing costs in all the cities that I like living
Yeah, you don't have to pay rent. Yeah,
in.
if
Yeah,
you're like having a bad conversation, you could be like, hold on a second, let me just
yeah.
go to my mind palace, literally. Question number 2, Fitz, what is a book that made you cry?
I guess I'll go first.
Okay.
I suspect that we'll have the same one here.
I
But
think we might.
I said the Sword of Kaigen.
Yes, I also
We do.
said
We
the
have the
Sword of
same one.
Kaige.
Yeah, Sword of Kaigen. That's a fucking rough book. It's really good, but yeah, that
Mhm.
book made me cry for sure.
Yeah, I
Um,
listened to the audiobook and I remember like it was like 2 a.m. I was like in bed, just staring at the ceiling, like weeping for like the second half of the book.
it's a really is it weird? Is it spoiler to talk about the structure of the book?
No, I don't
Um,
think so.
okay. It's a very oddly structured book in that the climax is firmly around the halfway point, and you
Hmm.
just get about half a book's worth of really tragic denouement that
Hmm.
I think is
Yeah,
executed phenomenally. There's a lot
yeah.
revealed about a great number of characters, and there's so much to deal with following the climax that
Hmm.
I think it's handled phenomenally.
I saw on Twitter recently that ML Wong had like originally wanted to like have Mamoru be the protagonist, but she decided to like center it on Misaki instead. And I think that's like maybe one of the best decisions she could have made for this book because it
Yeah,
Misaki is such a fantastic main character. And honestly, the first book that made me cry the most is Fool's Assassin by Robin Hobb.
obviously.
Um, but yeah, Sword of Kaigen is like a close second, I would say.
I also cried during Fool's Assassin. There are also a number of Malazan books that got great many tears out of me, but I have to save my Stephen Erickson for later.
All right, now it's time for question number 3. Based off of The Fool, what is your favorite friendship or friend group in fiction?
Um, well, you go first because I went first on the last one.
Okay. Um, well, I also have to give an honorable mention to Steven Erickson because I feel like the 14th Army, especially in the Bone Hunters, I like understood what he was going for with that dynamic in that book. Like it finally clicked. But I'm actually gonna give this to Ged and Vetch from A Wizard of Earthsea.
Oh, fantastic
I
choice.
Yeah, I love A Wizard of
Yeah,
Earthsea because it is like Ged is his own villain, and I think that's like just such a beautiful plot. It's just so true for so many people. You're
yeah,
like your biggest obstacle is just you. One of the best things about that book is that Ged could not have overcome the shadow without Vetch's help. Like he's so and I think that's just like that's life. Like you need friends and people who love you to like carry you that far, and then
yeah,
you can sort of go the last part yourself, but you do need like friends, and like humans just can't do it. You just can't do it by yourself. And I like that.
I love Earthsea. I love Ged. I love Vetch. Yeah, that was a great choice. Um, mine might not be in the spirit of the question, but you know what? Fuck the spirit of the question. I uh, I feel like the intended spirit is like maybe feel good friend group, like
Hmm.
happy times, uh, people who are like helpful to each other and loving and caring. My favorite
Yeah.
friend group, I it has to be the classic students from the Secret History.
Ooh, that's a great answer. I love
Yeah,
that.
they
Yeah.
have such a phenomenally toxic dynamic. Watching
Hmm.
watching them like interact with each other as their lives fall apart and as they like tear each other apart is like one of the most perfectly constructed um, plots to a book I've ever read. It's phenomenal. They're all really well crafted characters who fit their roles exactly, and I think they
Yeah.
play off of each other perfectly for what that book's trying to do.
I agree. I love The Secret History. I will say, I mean, this question was based off The Fool, and I know how you feel about The Fool having finished
I
the whole
do, yeah.
series. So maybe that was not entirely out of spirit.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great point. That's a phenomenal point, actually.
All right. This is the next question is Althea from the Live Ship Traders trilogy. Who is your favorite protagonist?
Oh, is it my turn to go first? Oh man.
Yes.
I see I have like so I have so many answers here that I could give, and I don't want to waste any authors that I might want to use later. So
You
I'm
can,
like,
okay.
but you know what? To be honest, I think it might be Bilbo. Might be Bilbo Baggins.
Really?
I adore Bilbo. I think he is this incredibly well. So, and we've had arguments about the definition of Portal Quest fantasy before, and
Uh-huh.
I think that Bilbo's relatability to the everyman makes him the perfect Portal hero.
Hmm.
He is just so out of his depth in the most relatable
Hmm.
possible way. I love him. I love everything about him.
Yeah, he is really a fish out of water. I Bilbo is such a great answer to that. I do want to investigate why Bilbo and not Frodo?
Um, that's a great question. I I think Frodo's an incredible protagonist. The real issue for me is that it's hard to call. I don't actually know which character I like more, but I do know
Mhm.
that Frodo is not my favorite character in The Lord of the Rings, and Bilbo is easily my favorite character in The Hobbit.
Mm, yeah, that's
So
fair.
it's
You're
it's
also just
just
allowed to
easier
be
for me
like,
to choose Bilbo by contrast. But no, I mean Frodo is also a phenomenal answer. I could have easily said Frodo. I love Frodo. I
mhm,
think they're both great.
yeah. You're also just allowed to be like, I like Bilbo more. That's
I
just
do
the
like Bilbo.
vibes.
I don't know that, but the thing is, I don't know if I like Bilbo more. I like them both a lot.
I think my favorite protagonist is Jane from Jane Eyre. I just love
Oh
her.
yeah, I should have seen that coming.
Yeah, I don't know if I relate to her, but I like definitely am able to empathize with her a lot just because of the way that it's written in the first person. You just like are able to get into her head so well. Is standing up to Mrs. Gateshead. Is that her name, Mrs. Gateshead? I don't care. She's she doesn't
Something
deserve
like
to have me
that,
remember her name
yeah. True
correctly.
based.
But like that one scene where Jane like stands up to her and like defends herself is maybe one
Hmm.
of like the best, most well-written scenes in all of fiction. It's just so cathartic to see Jane stand up for herself and like because no one has ever stood up for Jane at that point. She's taking it
Yeah.
into her own hands to be her own best, be her own advocate.
To add to your, you were saying that you don't know if you relate to her necessarily, and I think, even if you can't relate to her specific struggles, and obviously her life is horrible, early
Mhm.
on especially. Even if you can't relate to her specific struggles, there is sort of this pervading anxiety
Mhm.
with her own situation in life and with her relationships to basically everyone around her that I think is just universally relatable, regardless of who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that comes through brilliantly, especially in the first half of the book.
I feel like we're like killing this tag. We have
Hell
such
yeah,
great
I
answers.
agree. We do. No, I agree.
The next question, Ophelia, your favorite sassy character or funny book? It has to be Pratchett. Like, if you
Oh,
have a
you're saying
different
Pratchett?
answer other than Pratchett,
I had a cheekier answer than Pratchett. I was saving Pratchett for later.
ooh, okay. Well, I had to use Pratchett on this one because Granny Weatherwax is just, she's
She
so
would have been
funny
my
and
choice for
iconic.
Pratchett too. Yeah.
Weird Sisters is like one of the funniest books I've ever read. Monstrous Regiment, also one of the funniest books I've ever read. I just Pratchett is like one of the few authors who can like get me to laugh out loud. Erickson has made me laugh out loud. I will say,
Hell
like
yeah.
a couple
Was it the chicken
times.
scene?
It was the chicken scene was funny. It was the
Chicken
like
scene had me
penis scene
cackling.
where like Kalam like wakes up and there's like a demon with three penises,
Hell
peni.
yeah.
And I was like at work
Penines.
while I was listening to that and I was like, what the hell just happened? But yeah, Erickson has gotten me. But Pratchett is like the most consistent at it, where like I just know that if
Yeah.
I pick up a Discworld book, I'm gonna have a good time, even if
Yeah,
it's
you're gonna
like
be
not the
cackling.
best book ever. He is really funny. So that's like
Oh yeah.
almost a cheat, a cheat code, but I
That's
want to hear
fair.
who yours is.
So yeah, I'm surprisingly not saying Tehel Bedict or Stillwater for this because I have to save
Hmm.
Erickson for later too. Um so oh wait, maybe I have to. Oh no. I think I wrote myself into a corner. I want to say the one I was gonna say anyway, but I'm
Mhm.
committed to one author per answer, so I will end up okay. Originally, I was gonna say Aragorn because
Aragorn.
in
Okay.
Fellowship of the Ring, Aragorn is so sassy and he is like talking shit to the hobbits constantly in the Prancing Pony.
Yes.
He doesn't carry this over really into the latter two books, but in Fellowship, Aragorn is so sassy and so funny. He's just this
Also,
really
Gandalf is
sarcastic, funny
hilarious.
character. Gandalf is consistently throughout the books. I would agree with that.
Yeah,
But
I love that.
Aragorn, really funny in Fellowship. But I did already say Bilbo, so I actually have to say Stillwater from The God Is Not Willing as my favorite sassy character, which is
Ooh.
the actual answer. Stillwater
Uh-huh.
might be my favorite character, period, in all of fiction.
hmm
She's perfect and amazing. And I can't wait to read more of her when No Life Forsaken comes out. Yeah, she's probably the best character I've ever read, and she's unbelievably funny without fail. As are like basically half of the characters in that book are just really funny people in a believable way that never undermines the seriousness of the setting, which is a really hard thing to do in serious
Yeah,
epic
I feel
fantasy.
like Erickson is really good at balancing like this really dark tone, and like obviously Malazan just like lots of really bad
Yeah,
stuff
it's a
happens,
heavy
but
book,
like
heavy series. People are funny in rough times. It happens in real life too. But I think it is like it's a genuine talent to be able to pull that off in fiction. And Erickson, I
for
mean,
sure.
Tehel and Bug we were talking about earlier. I think Corbel Broach and Beauchelin are a great
hmm
example in the main series as well. But oh my God, Stillwater and Annex. I
Tahal
can't
and
wait.
Bug are, yeah, on another level. They're definitely like their like dialogue is on its own, like in a
I
league of
can't
its
wait
own.
for you to
So
read
good.
The God Is Not Willing because Stillwater and
See, this is the
Annex and the
problem.
heavies are perfection.
Dating a Malazan fan is like you're like, oh, I'm gonna finish a huge 10-book series, and then they're like, oh yeah, I can't wait for you to read this
No.
11th book.
Look, it's my favorite book ever. I'm allowed. I'm allowed to recommend.
It's allowed.
And for the record,
For the
favorite
record,
series, 16 books long. Just
that's
saying.
fair. That is fair. You did read the
I did read
entire.
Realm of the Elderlings is a phenomenal series, as we all know. And neither of us have brought it up yet for any of these answers.
I know. Well, I think we did say that we
Well,
were
we
gonna
mentioned it,
avoid
but we
that.
haven't used, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
The next question is based off of the six Duchies, and it is the sixth question. I just noticed. That's very clever.
Very
Good
clever.
job,
Good job.
Miss Richards reads. Um, Favorite magical world or setting?
So this is the one I was trying to save Erickson for, but I wrote myself into a corner by putting Bilbo for favorite protagonist. Um,
Yes.
because obviously I was trying to save Erickson for favorite magical world or setting, get real. But
Would you really want to be in the world of Malaz?
it's
The
not the one I
Malaz
would want to be in,
Malazan
though. Of course I
Empire?
wouldn't want to be in that world. I mean, is it better than our actual world? I would argue yes. But is it
Oh, okay.
worse than a lot of other fantasy worlds? I would argue yes. But in terms of like my appreciation for how it's constructed, it's
hmm
easily my favorite. But
hmm
I think my favorite that is not Stephen Erickson, because I've already used him. And this is an author who I'm extremely critical of, and who I think overall has written about half of a really good book and two and a half pretty not great books.
uh-huh.
Um, but Camor in
Mm,
The Lies of Loch Lamora is such an incredibly well realized city. It's such a
yeah.
phenomenal setting. I just wish Scott Lynch would realize that he is incredibly good at writing heists and creating these like
Yes.
thieving missions. And he's really trying so hard to do these like overarching plots that he's not very good at writing.
Yeah.
And I have never been more disappointed in a book than, I mean, the ending of Lies of Loch Lamora is horrible. And then the moment that Red Seas Under Red Skies ceases to be about gambling scams, I ceased to be interested. It's mind-boggling how he has these incredible ideas for heists and for like crime, which he's incredible at writing. And then
Mhm.
he just doesn't focus the book on that, which is clearly his greatest strength as an author.
Mm.
Um, I would much prefer those books if they were just sort of sets of semi-connected or even entirely unconnected heists. that are just happening in these really cool settings that he writes. Because every city he writes is phenomenally well realized. He's an excellent world builder.
Well, you actually said something that like made me realize that I was looking at this question too narrowly, because I was like, it's a world that you would want to live in, but then I was like, no, you can choose like a world that's well constructed, right? Like you don't have to like, you don't have to want to live in it. So in light of that, I'm going to change my answer, which was originally going to be the Shire.
I mean, yeah, who wouldn't want to live in
I
the
don't want
Shire?
to say that. That's like too
No,
basic, but it's
that's
so
so
true.
valid though. Who wouldn't want to live in the Shire? That rules.
So instead, I am going to say that I recently read the entire, well, I don't know if it's the entire, but everything that's out now in the Dead Djinn universe by P. Jelly Clark.
Oh yeah.
And I love Clark's Cairo. It's like this alternate history where Egypt like sort of evades, like not evades, but they like end up, you know, independent, and because of magic they're like this very powerful like government, and so they evade like British imperialism, and that alone makes it really interesting because you get to see like you know, Egyptian culture like untainted by imperialism, which is like kind of a pipe dream for a lot of people around the globe, I would say. But I think that alone is like makes it so cool to read. But also I think Clark is just fantastic at creating this really cool setting where magic interweaves with city life. And yeah, I really enjoyed reading his Cairo. I think he's just a really good like setting writer.
I was going to say that he hints at this much broader world too. And I haven't read Master of Djinn. I've just read the 2 novellas so far, but I remember him hinting that, well, India had a similar fate, right? Where India also evaded British imperialism, and same with much of like South Asia. And I think he's setting himself up to just explore this massive world. And I wonder if he's actually going to do that, because he could just be building it off to the side, but it would be really cool. I
remember the sentence where he was like, India has their own like old gods and the Ganges, and I was like, oh my god, if P. Jelly Clark wrote a book set in India, I would literally combust. I think it would be fantastic. I would love that. This is the question where I think I'm gonna have to bust out my Robin Hobb.
Shit, I was gonna do that too.
Number 7, Nighteyes. Who is your favorite animal companion?
And
Nighteyes.
It has to be Nighteyes. I mean, nobody else is even close.
The only one who kind of comes close is Pantalaimon from his Dark Materials.
Is that the bear?
The bear is like his own character. He's like he's like the king of the polar bears, but then he's like
based.
They like capture him. There's stuff going on there. It's been a while since I read these books.
Does that not count as that doesn't count as an, I guess, Aslan doesn't count as an animal companion either. So that's fair.
Yeah, because he's not a companion. He's like
he's a character. Yeah, that's true. I agree with that.
And like I would say that Nighteyes is his own character, but he is like also Fitz's companion.
He's defined by his relationship to Fitz in the books for sure.
Yeah, Pantalaimon is really cool, but he's not as cool as Nighteyes, unfortunately.
Nobody is. Nighteyes is the best. Nighteyes is such a great character in his own right. He's such a great companion to Fitz. The only character I could come up with that I would even possibly put here if I had used Hobb earlier was Bill the Pony.
Oh yeah. Sam is very
Bill
fond
the Pony.
of
Bill
the
is
Pony.
a king, but nobody touches Nighteyes.
Number 8, Brashen. Favorite love interest.
Am I going first?
I can go first if you want.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Please do.
My favorite love interest is Connell from Normal People. And I mean, Connell and Marianne are like, the book is told from both of their perspectives. So I feel like they're both each other's love interests. And I love that book. I read it a couple of years ago now. And I think a lot of people don't like it. They're like, oh, this is like unrealistic, or like they're not like it's unrealistic. They're like, this is annoying. Like they should just get together. But I'm like, that's the beauty of it. Like people, you know, drift apart, like get back together. Like that's very human. And
very normal,
I liked reading about
you might
that.
say.
It's yes, exactly. It's not a romance book. I think that's why a lot of people like read it going into it thinking that it's going to be a romance book, and I think that's an important distinction to make, because if you're reading a romance book, there's the understanding that there's going to be a happily ever after. That's like a thing where it can't be a romance book if there's not a happily ever after, and this is a love story, not a romance.
I have a problem because, obviously I read some literary fiction from time to time, but the literary fiction I read is not typically romance oriented. And
Mhm.
the few like truly great romances uh that I could say, I guess I could say Mr. Rochester. Um
Mm,
I think Mr. Rochester from Jane Eyre is a great love interest. The few other great like
mhm.
literary romances are going to be referenced elsewhere. Um
Okay.
but yeah, I just feel like who in the fantasy genre besides Robin Hobb, who as writes really compelling romances? Like not many that I've read, unfortunately.
Mhm.
I could say there's a love interest in the Goldfinch, but I already used Donna Tartt too. So yeah, you know what? I guess I'll go with Mr. Rochester. I think Mr. Rochester's a great love interest. There's an excellent humanity to Jane and Mr. Rochester's relationship. Um it's unusual in that there is a great acknowledgement of the imperfections on both sides,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
yeah, I really like that.
I love when Jane, Mrs. Ingram, or Miss Ingram, I should say, comes to visit, and she's like talking to Mr. Rochester, and Jane is just like observing Miss Ingram talking to Mr. Rochester, and she's like, "Oh my God, he like loves her. She's like, he hates me. He's like not. He would never marry me." And like, that's like so relatable.
Oh, villain next.
Ooh, yes, for based off of Kyle from the Life Ship Traders trilogy as well. Oh, I wrote something really dumb, but like actually
Please share your
based
dumb
if you think
answer.
about it.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
I said Matilda's parents from the book Matilda by Roald Dahl.
Hell yeah.
um, yeah, Matilda's parents are just, they're awful. They just refuse to see how beautiful and like amazing Matilda is, and that's like the biggest injustice ever. And like the way that they
Yeah.
treat her is obviously terrible. And like Matilda's very similar to Jane. Like they're both like children who are mistreated. And I love Matilda so much, like the book, but also the character, and the way that she's treated by her parents is, it's worse than the way that she's treated by Mrs. Trunchbull, because they're her parents. They're like the people who are supposed to love her the most and provide like the safe home. And yeah, like she's this brilliant child with like all like an amazing imagination, and they just refuse to see that and like actively try to discourage her from reading books. And yeah, I hate Matilda's parents. They are absolutely the worst villains of all time.
That rules. That's a great take. I am going in a slightly different direction. I do want to give an honorable mention for
Mhm.
both the comic and the TV series Invincible. Nolan
Yes,
Grayson, Omni Man,
absolutely.
fantastic villain, phenomenal villain, really well done, especially in the show. I think they make him a lot better in the show thus far. At least we'll see
Mhm.
how they continue that. But yeah, really like him. But my actual answer, and I racked my brain for this, and I was like, there are a lot of great villains, but I gotta give it to Turnus from the Aeneid.
Ooh, okay.
I love Turnus. I think he is a fantastic foil for Aeneas. I think that there is, I mean, I could and I literally have written essays about why Turnus is a great villain. So I don't want to get too much into it right now and just take up the next like 10 minutes of this video. But Turnus is a really fantastic character. I think there's a lot of juicy intertextuality between
Mm.
him and both Hector and Achilles. Just a great character all around, and functions exceptionally well as a villain, because I firmly believe that there is a difference between a great character and a great villain, and you can be both or you can be one or the other. And Turnus is
Ooh,
both.
I'd be interested in hearing about that. Maybe you should make a video about that sometime.
Maybe I referenced that in a video that I've already made.
Yeah, but
Um,
people can't watch that because it's
oh, that's
full
true. I
spoilers for a
suppose you do have to
16-book
read. You do
series.
have to read 16 books to watch that video. I could talk about the difference between a good character and a good villain in it. Yeah, I could do that. I suppose.
Yeah,
I forgot. I
speaking of,
forgot that
Nat
not everyone
has
has read all of Realm of the Elderlings.
yeah, imagine not having read the entire Realm of the Elderlings. Couldn't be
I
me.
mean,
But
absurd, really. Like, what are you doing here?
yeah,
Go
you
get
should
reading. Come
get
on.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
get off this video and go finish Realm of the Elderlings. Go read Robin Hobb. Um, but yeah, I was trying to advertise your channel.
Oh,
We should have
sorry, and
done
I
that in the
interrupted
beginning.
you. Oh well, you know.
Yeah, let me put a spotlight on you. Nat has a YouTube channel called Used Chicken. You can go
Use
check out
chicken.
his channel.
It's
He has
true.
2 videos about Robin Hobb and more to come
More
about
to
other
come.
things, I
Maybe
imagine.
some about
Also,
Robin Hobb, some about things that aren't Robin Hobb. Yeah.
oh yeah, that's the world is divided into two things, into two
Two things. Yeah,
categories.
things that are Robin Hobb and things that aren't. It's true.
Number 10 is Kennit, a character or book you love to hate.
Oh yeah. This I think you should. Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first on this one? I don't remember whose turn it
I
is.
forgot to write down an answer for this, but there's like one
Oh,
that comes
okay.
to mind really fast, and that's just
Oh,
Jim Butcher. I know a lot of
oh.
people
So we're
really
talking about.
enjoy.
Oh, I
Yeah, I
see.
know a lot of people really enjoy Dresden Files, and more power to you. If you enjoy a book, you enjoy a book, but I did not. I did not
I
like the first 2 books, and I personally feel like I just feel like urban fantasy is so dominated by that kind of character now, maybe because of like Jim Butcher, where I'm like, there's so much more that urban fantasy has to offer. And like recently we read Max Gladstone, The Craft Sequence. I have this other book by Tanya Huff called The Underground Emporium. I know Shannon McGuire has 2 really long series that are urban outfitters.
Urban Outfitters.
um,
Hell yeah. Well, and she also has Middle
urban
Game, which is urban
fantasy.
fantasy,
Yes.
and Middle Game's
And
very
like,
good.
yes. I just feel like there are a lot of like, especially women and women of color writing urban fantasy that deserve
Women
the
and Max
level of
Gladstone.
Max Gladstone can be an honorable
Honorary
woman.
woman. Max Gladstone.
Um,
Yeah. Hell yeah.
but Max Gladstone deserves rights because he like
Oh
actually
yeah.
wrote like really good,
He
women
writes
and like actually he
phenomenal
wrote,
and
wrote
diverse casts. Yeah.
yeah. So like
And
that's
he
what I
doesn't
want. Like
like over sexualize them.
yes, exactly. Like we can have urban fantasy that has interesting plots and interesting settings and doesn't have just like a super horny uh main character. Like that's allowed.
That is, that's a great point because it is a series that I genuinely enjoy shitting on. Um,
Yeah.
I think I have called Full Moon the worst book I've ever read. And it's
Mhm.
not just like and it's certainly the like over sexualization and the male gaziness is a massive component, but that's not all because I think that it also just has a nonsensical and poorly structured plot with poorly thought out payoffs and
Mhm.
is clearly just contrived and thrown together for the convenience of the narrative. It's not a good book. Yeah,
Period.
don't like Full Moon. Yeah, bad book. I like that we both read Full Moon independently because we both read it before we met,
Yeah, we did.
and both were just like, "This is not good." So I took this question in a different spirit
Mm.
because I think this is a character that I love in concept. Like I think this is a phenomenally well written character in one of the best books I have ever read, but he's
Mhm.
a piece of garbage and I hate him. Um,
Mm.
and you're gonna be unsurprised. It's Mr. Collins. Uh,
Oh,
I
yeah.
adore Mr. Collins as a character. I think he's phenomenal. He's one of the best written characters ever, but he's a piece of garbage and I hate him. He's one of the funniest characters I've ever read. A man utterly incapable of recognizing his own faults or the faults in anyone that he has already deemed good. A
Yeah.
man who is like takes himself so seriously and is so completely oblivious to the absolute absurdity of every element of his person. He's incredible. He oh man, Men Without a Sense of Irony is a great mind for comedy and fiction. And I mean, clearly Jane Austen understood that 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Mr. Collins fucking rules. One of the best characters I've ever read.
We are on the last question. What is your favorite character based off of Vivacia? Your favorite character that is a sentient object. I'm gonna say Art from the Murderbot Diaries.
Hell yeah.
Art is also a ship, albeit a spaceship, and um, I just think Murderbot's relationship with Art is really fun and a really cool dynamic and an example of like a very intimate relationship that's like has no sort of physical manifestation really.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, they just have a really interesting friendship, and I like how that develops. I like how Murderbot sort of lets Art in over time, and yeah, Art is just this really cool like AI spaceship.
Is so the art book, the first art book is Rogue Protocol, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the best Murderbot book by like a mile. It's so good, and it's largely because it's so heavily focused on Murderbot and Art's relationship, which is the best part of
Yeah.
that series. I love Art. I think that's a great answer. My answer is a little stupider than that, I would say.
Uh-huh.
My favorite character that is a sentient object is Two Flowers Luggage from the
Hell
first two
yeah.
Discworld novels. The luggage rules. It's just so fucking funny. This like 100-legged suitcase barreling down and biting people and running them over and just perpetually following its owner everywhere. It's so good. I love the luggage so much. It's a never-ending source of comedy, and it does have like real character. It's this very Pratchett's so good at this. He will just describe this very emotive box
Mhm.
walking. It's so good. I love the luggage.
I agree. The luggage is really good. That's like just another testament to Pratchett's genius is that he's like able to characterize actual luggage. Just what a guy.
What a guy indeed.
Well,
God, yeah.
thank you for joining me. I had a lot of
Thank you for
fun doing
having
this
me.
tag. You can go find Nat on YouTube. I will also link his channel down below
Ooh, thank you.
and in the pinned comments. Um, we'll catch you next time, I guess.
Hell
See you
yeah.
later.
Bye.
Bye.